John, hey, it's Shaun here. Things are going great, by the way. We're in good control of the Premier League, good spot in the group, even though we're not technically qualified in top spot yet. What I am here about is the silly sacking season. And why am I seeing Jurgen Klopp's name linked with Chelsea and Tottenham? I thought he was just on a 1 year holiday.
He is.
Are you sure he is? Because it sounds like he might not be.
I don't think that's likely.
Yeah, look, I'm not worried about him taking over one of Newcastle or Aston Villa, but Chelsea or Tottenham, even though they're quite far down the table at the moment, you told me he was coming back next year. Why would he take another job if he's coming back next year?
I'm sure he will come back for next season.
Okay, let's just drop it for now. I need to focus on this Dortmund game and then especially Manchester City away, the only team so far who have beaten us this season. But if he takes up another job, I will not be happy, okay?
I'm sure it won't be an issue.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 7 of Quadruple or Nothing here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well and coming up to date in this FM23 Beta save with Liverpool. We play two quite important games in the Champions League and the Premier League. We get a chance to secure top spot in our group as we take on Borussia Dortmund in front of the yellow wall, and off the back of that we take on the team who so far have been the only team to defeat us so far this season, even though that was all the way back in the Community Shield, and that is Manchester City at the Etihad. How dangerous will they be with a few more months with Erling Haaland in their squad? So if you're looking forward to today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well, so you do not miss out on any of the Football Manager 2023 content here on the channel. But we have played quite a few games off the back of where we did leave things at the end of yesterday's episode. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. So first things first, some highlights from those games. First up, we had Premier League clashes. We did take on Leicester at Anfield, and they got off to an absolute flyer here in only the second minute. James Maddison puts that ball into the top left corner, and we trailed at Anfield after just over a minute. Off the back of that, Thiago went off with an injury as well, so this did feel like a game where we might end up on the wrong side of things, but thankfully Harvey Elliott there off the back of a nice ball from Mo Salah rolls that into the bottom left corner, and we did make it 1-1, albeit right before halftime Joe Gomez did give away a penalty and Jamie Vardy put it away, and that meant Leicester City did have a 2-1 lead at halftime, but from there we kicked into gear nice and early in the second half. Mo Salah with another assist, and Luis Diaz heads that one into the back of the net. Then here, only a few minutes later, Soyuncu takes far too much time on the ball, and Darwin Núñez chips the goalkeeper, and that goalkeeper was Adrian, of course, who we did sell to Leicester City on deadline day, and that made it 3-2 Liverpool. And then with 15 minutes left, we did seal this result, albeit, as I mentioned, quite a dicey game this was, but Mo Salah added to his 2 assists with a goal, and in the end we pick up a 4-2 win, but that was looking like it might be our first defeat or even drop points in this save so far, the way that Leicester City did play in the first half, but thankfully a much better performance there in the second half to make sure our perfect Premier League record was intact. And off the back of that, we travelled to take on Porto in a rematch from yesterday in the Champions League. Quite a rotated team for this game, but one of those players, Roberto Firmino, did open the scoring there on the 46-minute mark, and that one was in the second half. But then right before full time here, 89th minute, a free kick to Porto. They put that in the top right corner, and we do drop our first points this season, albeit we were already in quite a strong position in the Champions League group, but we do end up there with a 1-1 draw away at Porto, albeit of all the competitions that we probably want to drop points in at the moment, I think the group stages of the Champions League would be the one, because we're still in a good position, hopefully, to get out of our group in a top spot. And off the back of that, we have 3 straight games in the Premier League, back to something closer to our first choice 11 for this one at home against Aston Villa. Lovely touch there from that Alexander-Arnold ball from Darwin Núñez to set up that volley into the bottom left corner, which made it 1-0. And then only a few minutes later, he did some good work there to get the ball off of Tyrone Mings. And in the end, Jude Bellingham gets the assist to make it 2-0 after only 10 minutes. Took a little while for us to get our next goal with 15 minutes to go, but it was Fabio Carvalho off the bench, off the back of that nice run from Diogo Jota. Darwin gets a touch there, and Carvalho puts that in the back of the net. And then a few minutes later, not too sure how Carvalho is, but nonetheless, we did make it 4-0, and it was Darwin Núñez completing his hat-trick there from yet another Diogo assist, and that made it 4-0, a hat-trick there for our Uruguayan striker. And in fact, no one got the assist there for that Carvalho goal, but a very good bounce back there, 4-0 against Aston Villa. Off the back of that, we had a trip to take on Ange Postecoglou's Wolves here, and unfortunately we went down yet again here at the 40-minute marker. There was definitely a save that Alisson should be making, but Raul Jimenez puts that ball in the back of the net. Off the back of that, in the second half, we started off with a missed penalty from Fabinho, so it did feel like this could be a game that we might lose, but thankfully there were 20 minutes to go. Darwin Núñez continues his great form, and we pick up a 1-1 draw in the end. It should have been a 2-1 win with that penalty miss from Fabinho. It was a good save there by Jose Sarr in goal for Wolves, but that's our first drop points in the Premier League, 1 all the way at Wolves. And then off the back of that, we went back to Anfield to take on West Ham, and yet again we were the first team to concede. Jared Bowen here jogs his way into the box. Yet again, I feel like Alisson should have probably done better with that shot, but they did grab a 1-0 lead there in the 12th minute. Not too long off the back of that, though, Thilo Kehrer did get a red card, so we were playing against 10 men. And at the 28-minute mark, Darwin Núñez continues his great form, pounces on a bit of a rebound there off a block shot, and makes it 1-1 going into halftime. And on the hour mark, of all people, Andy Robertson from a tight angle beats Lucas Fabianski in goal, and we end up grabbing a 2-1 win there, so somewhat get back on track, albeit not the most overly convincing performance, but still we pick up 3 points, get back on track off the back of that draw against Wolverhampton. So we are still unbeaten this season, just those drop points against Wolves in the Premier League and of course against Porto in the Champions League. What that does mean for the Premier League table before we do take on Manchester City in the second game of today's episode, we have actually extended the gap on top of the table. So thankfully those drop points against Wolves did not prove too costly. We are now 13 points clear of both Arsenal and Southampton, albeit that could get close to 11 as Manchester United do have a game in hand. And at the moment, Manchester City not even in a Champions League qualifying spot. So this could be a good chance for us here to try and get them out of the potential title race. And winning that second game of today's episode would be absolutely huge and could give us a big gap at the top of the Premier League going into that World Cup window, which we are going to play the final game before in tomorrow's episode. And going back to the Champions League group, because of course our first game in today's episode is against Borussia Dortmund. We are on top of it with 10 points and 5 points clear of both Porto and Dortmund. That does mean that pretty much a draw in this next game should be enough for us to secure qualification to the first knockout round, but a win would definitely make sure that we go through to that one and in top spot. But even then, Porto and Dortmund do play each other in the final match week, so we should already be going through. Not too sure why that Q is not quite showing next to our name just yet, but if we win this game against Dortmund, we make sure that we go through as a top seed. So that is a recap of what has happened on pitch since yesterday's episode. Something else that we need to cover off over in the Premier League. It has been a little bit of sacking season, as you might have been able to tell by the intro. And the easiest place to show what's been happening is probably the headlines tab under the news items here in the Premier League. As you can see, much like real life, Steven Gerrard has recently been sacked by Aston Villa down in 15th. Just below that, Eddie Howe sacked by Newcastle down in 12th. But before then, we also lost Antonio Conte at Tottenham, even though they're pretty much mid-table at the moment. And less surprisingly, when you see the table on the far right-hand side, the first manager to get sacked was Graham Potter from Chelsea, as they currently find themselves all the way down in the relegation zone. So 4 manager sackings there since yesterday's episode. And as mentioned in the intro, Jurgen Klopp is on the watch list for those 2 big clubs in Chelsea and Tottenham, which could make things a little bit interesting, but hopefully he does not join either of those clubs. That could be a bit of an interesting situation, as I said, but it does look like one of Pochettino or Lopetegui is going to join Tottenham. Not too sure yet, though, about who are joining Chelsea, Aston Villa or Newcastle, albeit Graham Potter is being linked quite a bit in news items to that Aston Villa job. But 4 manager sackings since you were last here, and of course we are due to play Tottenham in tomorrow's episode, so it will be interesting to see who is in charge of them by the time we do get to that final game before the World Cup break. But we are about to take on Borussia Dortmund. We only played them a few days ago in this series. In terms of our team going into this one, though, we are going to rotate it fairly heavily because I still think we can afford to potentially draw this game. We still should be fine playing the Hungarian team in our last match day and getting through in top spot, and especially because we want our best available team out there for that clash against Manchester City to really try and grab a good gap on top of the Premier League. So we'll come back shortly with the team sheets and those lovely Champions League graphics and music in front of the yellow wall as we take on Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. And here are the team sheets for this game in front of the yellow wall. There are Borussia Dortmund, a few notable additions since we did last play them notably up front. In Marco Reus, they do look a little bit stronger than when we played them at Anfield a few episodes ago. And there you can see us, a lot of rotation worth noting. Oxlade-Chamberlain back from that long-term injury he had at the start of the season. Also players like Curtis Jones should be on the bench as well, with that being extended, but hopefully a win here will secure us top spot for that first knockout round draw. And about halfway through the first half, we have our first highlight of this one. We did have the ball there down the left-hand side through Diogo Jota, and we get it back not too long off the back of that through Kostas Tsimikas. Jogs his way through the Dortmund defence, but in the end, a good save there from Kobol in goal for Dortmund. We are just starting to get on top of them here in terms of stats, and we go down back their end here a few minutes off the back of that previous highlight for a Trent Alexander-Arnold free kick. Tries to put that in the top right corner, but it does come off of the post. So a few good chances for us there, but still 0-0, just shy of the 30-minute mark. And we have another free kick here right on the halfway line, 28 minutes into this first half. Bit of a loose touch there from the Ox. He's starting to get some match fitness back, of course, off the back of that long-term injury. Kanate there, bit of a loose first touch, but thankfully recovers with a good slide tackle. And Kostas Tsimikas is on the ball, plays that to Henderson, who is playing as a defensive midfielder for us with the return of Oxlade-Chamberlain. He is quite suited to that box-to-box midfield role, so we certainly have a bit more depth in the midfield with both the Ox and, of course, Curtis Jones back from their injuries. And that's a poor giveaway there from Dortmund. Diogo Jota with a chance, but that comes off of that bottom right corner post, and a few good chances for us there in quick succession, but it remains 0-0 here in Dortmund. And only a few minutes shy of half-time, we are going to be forced here into a substitution. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, just coming back from that injury, has picked up an orange one, hopefully not too serious. But coming on for him today, I think for the box-to-box midfield role, we might actually use James Milner to make sure that players like Jude Bellingham do get a decent rest before that Manchester City game. So forced into a substitution here, still locked up at 0-0, a few minutes shy of half-time. And it is half-time here in this Champions League game. As you can tell by the XG graph, we certainly got on top of them there in the second part of that first half, but unfortunately, nothing made its way into the back of the net, so we'll get things back underway here with no more substitutions. Still 0-0, but not in a bad position to hopefully grab a goal, which makes sure we go through in top spot in the second half. And very shortly off the back of the restart, we have a throw in here, albeit inside our own half. Diogo Jota plays that one back to James Milner, who did, of course, come off the bench late in that first half, and he is on the ball yet again, plays that one all the back to Alisson Becker, all the way back I should say, and he now distributes that out to Ibrahima Kanate, who steadily shuffles his way up the pitch. Diogo Jota now with a ball over the top, looking for Roberto Firmino, albeit Nicholas Schuler is there to tidy things up, and the Dortmund goalkeeper pumps it deep. They do keep possession off the back of it, that clearance, and it is Marco Reus here who will try and get something going for them down this left-hand side, and Morgan Hazard makes his way in behind us here, finds a little bit of space inside the blocks. First off, it is a block shot. There's a lot of block things happening here, and eventually Alisson Becker comes up with a good save there to start off the second half, and shortly off the back of that, we do have another highlight, so a decent chance there for Dortmund for the first time in this game. And now Emre Can, of course, a former Liverpool player, gets the ball back for Dortmund. Good chance that time for Marco Reus, but thankfully just puts it wide. So a good start here for the black and yellow through the second half, but it does remain 0-0 as we get towards 10 minutes into the second half. And just as I was about to wrap things up, it's a corner here for Borussia Dortmund, but Tsimikas will head that one away, but Reina puts it back into the mixer for Marco Reus, but James Milner did get possession back, albeit tried to take a bit too much of a first touch there. Doesn't quite have the pace these days. So Marco Reus did get back in position, but Dortmund have played this back to their goalkeeper, an absolute clanger, and Roberto Firmino makes the most of it well outside the box. He still had to hit the target, but that is an absolute shocker there from the Dortmund goalkeeper. Just pretty much gives us a goal as Dortmund were forced to go all the way back off the back of that interception from James Milner, but just clatters that into Roberto Firmino and places that nicely in the back of the net from just outside the box, and we make it 1-0 Liverpool 10 minutes into the second half. And up to the hour mark, we're going to make a few more substitutions at this time. Thiago down to a red heart. We want him available for that City game, so Curtis Jones will count on for him. And also, Trent Alexander-Arnold only going okay on a 6.5. Another player would like quite fit for that City game. Fabinho to come on for him as we just taken that 1-0 lead. And only a few minutes off the back of those previous substitutions, time for us to make another one. Now it is Mohamed Salah down to a red heart. Obviously a player we want to keep fresh for that Manchester City game. So coming on for him will be Luis Diaz. Diogo Jota can go out to the right-hand side with around about 20 minutes left. And just entering the last 15 minutes, here is a free kick for Dortmund. They get a goal back here, and it is back to all square, but thankfully we do deal with that. And Roberto Firmino might get a chance here to do something on the counter-attack, of course, off the back of that rather fortunate goal, which he did score. Nice ball there for Jordan Henderson, and puts that past their goalkeeper from a very tight angle. And there is a cushion goal with around about 13 minutes left. Hopefully, that will be enough for us to secure top spot in our Champions League group for the first knockout round. Good work there off the back of defending that free kick. Roberto Firmino having a good game up front today, and Jordan Henderson rolls that one in the back of the net to make it 2-0 Liverpool. And we have entered the last 5 minutes of this one, about to have a corner where we might get the chance to make it 3-0, but Ibrahima Konate puts that one over the bar, but I think that's going to pretty much be it. In the end, we got on top of these guys around halfway through that first half, and it looks like we are going to pick up all 3 points, albeit they do have a free kick there, but Diogo Jota does get himself in the way a little bit, but Collins is able to get the ball back for Dortmund, but then Diogo gets it back for us. Roberto Firmino having a good game today with a goal and an assist, and is back on the ball here, plays that over to the other goal scorer in Jordan Henderson. Now Simicast out there on the left-hand side, but this is a good 3 points for us, especially with the players that we have been able to give a rest to prior to that Manchester City game, who were in need of a bit of a freshen up. Now Henderson looking for a double, and that one comes off the underside of the crossbar, off the back of their goalkeeper, and just spills out in front of the goal. It is Forgan Hazard here, who tries to get something going for Dortmund, but he gets fouled, and I think that's going to do it for this one. Indeed, that is the case, and we pick up a 2-0 win here in front of the yellow wall, thanks to second half goals to Roberto Firmino and Jordan Henderson. Firmino with that assist for the second goal, and in the end, I think that's a deserved win. Dortmund probably could have got a goal back in that game, and we're a bit unfortunate with the way that that first one was scored, albeit their goalkeeper with an absolute shocker. But we do pick up a win, and that should mean when we come back with an updated group table that we have qualified for the first knockout round, and indeed that is the case. Porto cannot catch us anymore. We are 5 points clear of those guys, so we are going through to the Champions League knockouts in first place, but we'll come back shortly with the team sheets from the Etihad as we take on Manchester City in a rematch from the only match that we've lost so far this season. And we are back from the Etihad for this big Premier League game, albeit Manchester City these days are outside that top 4, and as you can see, coming to this one in some pretty average form, but obviously a team we need to respect off the back of that win earlier in the Community Shield. We've just made the one change to our usual best 11 would be for this one. Thiago hasn't quite recovered enough from that game against Borussia Dortmund, so that means Henderson starts as the box-to-box midfielder, Jude Bellingham as the Mazzala, but hopefully a win here will put us in a great position going into that World Cup break. And we are just under 10 minutes shy of half-time when the first highlight of this game comes up that we're going to show you guys. There was one 10 minutes earlier where one of our players had a chance, but he put it wide, and even then he was offside, so not much point showing you guys that one. But we are in position here, and we'll hopefully get the first decent chance of this game as Alisson Becker starts to try and get us here to play out from the back. Virgil van Dijk takes his time on the ball and plays that one over to Andy Robertson, who starts to make his way into the opposition half. Will be interesting to see here how we do get on with this vertical tiki-taka tactic. Of course, we did lose the Community Shield 2-0, but that was our first competitive game playing with this, and even then we did not have a player like Jude Bellingham in our squad. But we are on the attack here. Jude Bellingham, ball over the top for Darwin Núñez, but just puts that one over the bar, and still nil, all 5 minutes shy of half time, albeit just as I was about to wrap things up there is another highlight of thrown here right on the halfway mark. Yet again, we play that one back to Alisson Becker. Do that a few times. He plays that one up to Jordan Henderson off the back of a pretty good performance against Borussia Dortmund. And Jude Bellingham now makes his way right on the edge of the box. Lovely ball that for Darwin Núñez. He continues some great form here at Liverpool. He is proving to be one heck of a striker for us, and we make it 1-0 here at the Etihad with 5 minutes left in the first half, and this could be a big 3 points if we can hold on to this lead, even though Manchester City certainly not at their best, but that's a lovely finish there from Darwin Núñez. Bumps that into that top left corner to give us a 1-goal buffer. And right before half-time here, we have one more highlight in the dying seconds of this first half, and Jude Bellingham again proving a real nuisance here for Manchester City. Gets the ball back, and we might get one more chance here in this first half as Robinson yet again plays that one up to Bellingham, plays this one back to the Scot, and he puts the ball into the mixer. Darwin flicks that one down for Mo Salah. It's a wonderful finish into the bottom left corner, and just shy of half-time, we have rocked Manchester City here at the Etihad. Darwin Núñez with his fingerprints all over both goals, as has been the case as well with Jude Bellingham. And Darwin Núñez here, lovely little flick down for Mo Salah, nice turn, and puts that away really nicely in that bottom left corner. And it looks like we are going into the sheds here with a 2-0 lead, and very happy with how things are going. Trent's probably going to have to come off here early in the second half because he did go down to a red heart late in that first half. But for now, very happy with how things are going, especially the way that we ended that first half. So we'll keep things up here to start the second half and hopefully pick up another 3 points here at Manchester City. And a couple of minutes into the second half, the first highlight is a free kick here to Manchester City. They put this one into the mixer. Very interesting diving clearance there from Fabinho, albeit not a great one because it does just go out to Phil Foden. They now knock the ball around on the edge of the box, and Gundogan gets a shot off and rockets that into the bottom left corner. A little bit disappointing there that Alisson did get beaten at his near side, and one of our defenders there probably should have closed them down, but there is a way back into this game for Manchester City. At the start of the second half, they knock the ball about nicely there off the back of that free kick. It's a good, powerful strike, and they get their way back into this one, 2-1 nice and early in the second half, albeit just as I was about to wrap things up, yet again, we have another highlight. Trent here with the throw-in. We might take him off the back of this highlight because yet again, he is down to a red heart, but we still have got possession. Play that one back to BBD, and Bellingham just does enough there to keep the ball despite the efforts of Kevin De Bruyne. Now Andy Robertson is holding things up here on our left-hand side. Plays that one all the way back to Virgil, thankfully. Just enough on that to get there before the Manchester City can get his feet on the ball. Trent plays that one in for Mo Salah, but he gets brought down there by Akanji, and I think there was just enough contact there that it might be a penalty. We'll just wait, though, for VAR, but I think this is probably going to get given based on what we saw a few days ago in that game against Manchester United. It is a penalty, so a great chance here for Mo Salah to give us that 2-goal buffer. Straight back, he will go and take this, and he chips it down the middle. What a cheeky penalty that is from Mohamed Salah. He picks up his second goal of the game, and 5 minutes into the second half, we grab our 2-goal cushion back not too long after City do make it 2-1. As I mentioned, Joe Gomez will come on for Trent now that he is down to a red heart, especially with that 2-goal cushion back. But that is a very, very cheeky penalty that from Mohamed Salah. He sends Ederson completely on that right-hand side, and he just goes straight down the middle and makes it 3-1 Liverpool. And up to the hour mark, we are about to make our next substitution with Jordan Henderson on a red heart. But as you can see, Erling Haaland, just after that third goal, got substituted. So that is very early for Erling Haaland to be taken off. So that's one thing less we have to worry about for the remainder of this game. But Jordan Henderson will be coming off. I think for him today, we will bring on Curtis Jones, and Jude Bellingham can go back to his usual box-to-box midfield role. 3-1 up with a half hour left. And very shortly off the back of that substitution, we have another highlight here as we look to play out from the back. Hopefully we don't let City in with another chance here in this game to try and make their way back into it. But nice ball over there for Curtis Jones, but good effort, but comes off the crossbar, and now Jude Bellingham has gone down to a red heart, so I think we'll take him off, and coming on for him, with him being in that box-to-box midfield role, I think what we're going to do here, despite the fact he's not on a full green heart, I think instead of actually bringing on Harvey Elliott, we will bring on Thiago, who can play that box-to-box midfield role quite well, and we still have that 3-1 lead there with just under 30 minutes left. And yet again, only a few minutes off the back of that previous substitution, we do have another highlight, and we are on the attack yet again. Andy Robertson causing them headaches here down this left-hand side alongside Luis Diaz. It is now Curtis Jones inside the box. Robertson does miss out on possession, But they give us straight back to us there through Curtis Jones, and it is Mo Salah who puts that in the top right corner. We are going to have to wait for a VAR check, but it might be a hat-trick against Manchester City at the Etihad for Mohamed Salah, and that would surely wrap this game up. And indeed, that is the case. He's been a little bit hit or miss for us so far in the save, but he has got an all-important goal there to complete his hat-trick, albeit it is off the back of a block shot. Might have even been Darwin who blocked that initial shot, but he puts that in the top right corner, and we now have a 3-goal buffer. And we've just entered the last 12 minutes of this game. I was going to make a few more substitutions, but unfortunately stuffed up my substitution window, so we are stuck with these players for the rest of this game. Hopefully they don't tire late and let Manchester City back into this one. Good chance there for Calvin Phillips, but thankfully it's Calvin Phillips, and he's not the most lethal threat in front of goal, so it does stay 4-1 in our favour as we enter the last 5 minutes of this game. We actually haven't had that many shots compared to what we have had over the last few episodes, but they're very lethal with them, and that does mean that we have got this 4-1 lead, which hopefully we can see out here. We should be winning this game. Don't think Manchester City are going to score 3 goals inside the last 4 minutes. A nice ball over the top there for Luis Diaz, who is on a yellow card, but just puts that the wrong side of the post, and we start into injury time. In this game, we are going to pick up 3 points, and that will put us in a great spot going into that World Cup break. Even if we do start to drop a few points in our remaining Premier League games, that this is a big win for us and a big dent into the hopes of Manchester City, albeit they might get a chance here to score a consolation goal as Akanji starts to get on the attack for them here down their right-hand side, makes his way into the box, albeit Andy Robertson there does get possession back for us. Good clearance there from Alisson Becker, and Darwin Núñez holds up play for us here, and now it is Fabinho who is on the ball. Thiago fresh off the pitch. Nice ball there for Mohamed Salah. Will take that around Ederson. He picks up his 4th goal of the game. Absolutely dominant performance there from our Egyptian striker, and that really rubs some salt into the wound here of Manchester City, and we will have a massive gap on top of them now on both points as well as hopefully goal differential, and we might have just put them out of the title race. That is a heck of a performance from Mohamed Salah to grab a 4th goal, of course, alongside Darwin Núñez, who got the first one and did also assist that first goal, which Mohamed Salah did score, and in the end that was not much of a matchup at all. They did try and get their way back into that game early in the second half, but off the back of that we got a penalty, and from there Mo Salah scored 2 more second half goals, and in the end a very, very comfortable win here at the Etihad, 5-1 over Manchester City. We'll come back shortly and see what that does to the league table before we wrap up today's episode. So yet another really good episode for us here in this FM23 Beta save, and as you can see now, we have a huge gap on top of the Premier League, albeit all the teams behind us, apart from Man City and Newcastle, do have a game in hand, but still, we should have quite a good gap going into that World Cup break, even if we do stuff up in 1 or 2 games before then, but hopefully that is not the case. I think we're taking on Leeds and Tottenham in those last couple of Premier League games before the World Cup break, so we have already put ourselves in a really, really good position in the Premier League. I think the saying is you can't win the Premier League early in the season, but you can certainly lose it, and I'm thinking that most of the other teams in the league this season might have just done that for us, because their form has been wildly inconsistent, and we've just kept chugging along nicely with just those drop points against Wolves, and we've won all of our other games and beaten most of the big teams as well. So it's been a great start to the season. Hopefully that continues off the back of the World Cup break, but in a very good position. And of course, we have already qualified in top spot for the Champions League knockouts, which does mean we can rotate our team for that next game in that competition. But that will do it for today's episode. Good wins there against Dortmund and especially Manchester City. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Tomorrow, I think we might just come back for the one game. It's the final game before that World Cup break, and it is taking on Tottenham. Not too sure exactly who's going to be in charge of them at that stage in that final game before the World Cup break. Also, we should be able to come back as well for that first knockout round draw for the Champions League, as I do think that takes place right before that EFL Cup third round game against Shrewsbury. We are staying in that competition, but taking on a League One team, so even with a rotated team, we should be able to pick up a win in that one and keep our hopes of winning a quadruple alive, which is looking very likely in the Premier League at least, albeit still a long way to go. But it's looking quite rosy here at Liverpool for now, but we'll come back tomorrow taking on Tottenham in that final game before the World Cup break. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.